Yeah. What was that we were listening to? As
Uh,
Smash,
that's a Smashed Potato. It's my friend's band. Um,
where they
yeah,
from?
they're from Aurora, Illinois. And on their latest album, I helped them co-write a track called "Toxic Masculinity Holocaust." Just lyrics. Um, but it basically just deals with toxic masculinity and how it affects people and my personal experience with toxic masculinity, particularly in the music industry.
So, of course, you know, Mike, well, maybe you know my question. Is that a t-shirt? It's got to be a t-shirt.
I want it to be a t-shirt. They are still pretty underground, and but the budget isn't there right now for t-shirt. But I'm hoping that one day it will be.
Well, let's just do some.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's like that's the kind of thing I'd like to see on a shirt. Of course, I would hope to wear it ironically. Um,
Of course.
but uh, I could see people wearing that shirt, and then people go, "Hey, you know that's smashed potato." That's it. Oh, okay. It's a kind of a stealth way to promote the band. We've got. I'll make those shirts.
Oh, all right, dude. I'll hit you up after this about that. Cool, man. Thanks.
So let me do a little bit of housekeeping stuff before we start. This is
Sure.
the Midwest Music Expo Weekly. Um, you know, just so you know, Azalee, we started a conference down in Decatur, Illinois, called the Midwest
Hmm.
Expo, and 2019 we had 250 people show up from Nashville, St. Louis, Chicago, to Decatur, Illinois, where Millikan University is, where I teach,
Hmm.
and it was pretty good for the first one, and we were excited to do the second one in May 2020, and then um, in March we're like, or April we're like, well, we obviously can't do this.
Yeah.
Cancelled it. Then we started doing these weekly events.
Hmm.
After doing 4 or 5 weekly events, we're like, well, we can do this Zoom thing
Yeah.
through a virtual conference, and we tripled registrations and had people from 23 countries. You
Oh,
know,
that's awesome.
we had Lowell Tolhurst from The Cure. He did an hour-long thing with his new book. Um, Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, Galen Lee, Wendy Day. I mean, we had some good people that would not have traveled to Chicago or Decatur, but
Right.
an hour and a half of their time. So that's when, for me, I started to think, well, it's not 100% shit. It's not.
No, I think that's awesome.
Um,
It's
yeah. So we're talking to you today. Next week, Randy Churchow, who co-wrote this book, Making Money with Music. Ha ha ha. Um,
seems important.
yeah. It's actually really, it's kind of a mind-boggling OCD list of all the different revenue streams. It's pretty cool. Randy's going to be talking to us next week. I don't know what date that is. Maybe a student can throw a thing in a chat. Um, the week after that, Friday, I don't know, I want to say the 28th, but I might be wrong. I'm going to be talking to Andre or Ad2, who's a mentor rapper from the South Side. His new album, Jim Crow, the musical, um, feels way more important now than it did at the end of.
Yeah.
Um, also runs a place called the Haven Studio, where artists on the South Side, 47th and King Drive here in Chicago, artists on the South Side can go, and that place is literally a haven for them. And he's just super awesome. And we're just lining up more events as the year progresses. So that's what's coming up.
Sounds
Uh,
really sick.
yeah, it's good. So today I'm talking with Azalee Panama Cano, um, uh, who has experience in internships, marketing, merchandise, um, uh, cruise ships. Like it's like every single area. I mean the yeah, cruise ships. Um, the only thing you haven't been involved in that doesn't exist anymore will be like buffets.
Exactly. And actually, I've had a food table at one of my DIY shows, so maybe it's a buffet experience. We want to call it that.
Well, there's literally nothing that you used to do that can be done at the moment, kind of, except you're also involved with the beginning of Full Terror Assault,
Yeah.
an open air extreme metal festival.
Mhm.
So can we jump into that and then we'll go backwards?
Sure.
Just
Um.
well, okay, go ahead.
Oh, cool. Do you have any particular question, or do you just want me to talk about it?
Well, how do you get involved in it? What is it?
Okay. So, I started being a student at SAE. Um, Studying under you, and we were learning about marketing and all of these, interesting things. And um, right before that, I had come back from Europe, and I had been to a couple heavy metal festivals over there, and they're huge. And then I ran across this other festival, and it was like the first of its kind that I've ever seen in the U.S. So I went. It was super cool. It was awesome. I just saw that it was super, super, super disorganized, and was like, whoa, this feels like a step above DIY. And I've thrown DIY shows, so I'm like, okay, like, I was just kind of being the person in my head that was kind of like complaining about how things could be done better at the event. I was like, oh my god, like, this is happening. Why is this happening? He literally could just do this, or they could literally just do that. And when I started going to SAE, I was like, oh, there's like a kind of a method to for my complaining to be put into place somehow effectively. So then I just messaged the people that I kind of knew that were involved until I found the right person that was the correct person that I needed to speak to. And I was like, hey, can I help out with marketing or social media? They're like, sure. And then I kind of realized that it was just sort of one person mainly running it. And I was like, oh, here, let me take on this responsibility. I know what to do with this. And then I kind of just became like the right hand person. And that's kind of basically what happened. So I pretty much just asked someone if I could do it, and they said, yeah.
Well, and I think I used to say to students all the time who would complain about stuff. I'm like, listen, it's fantastic. If these problems didn't exist, there wouldn't be an opportunity. There's nothing
Right.
opportunities. Well, and there still are, but this is an open air extreme metal festival.
Yep. It's an open air, yeah, extreme metal festival in Southern Illinois. It's in Cave in Rock, Illinois. The closest like Walmart is in Kentucky. We're right by the Ohio River. The Juggalos used to have the gathering of the Juggalos at our campground. A while back. So it's 115 acres of land that we could have people on. It's beautiful. It goes crazy down there. You're isolated. You can't get to the nearest civilization is like 25 miles out. So you can party all day and all night. You won't bother anybody. Um, it's it's a really fun experience because we don't have cell phone service. We don't have internet out there. A lot of it's an independently funded festival. So a lot of it is underground bands and a few mainstream bands that our budget can afford. So it's a really cool dynamic where bands that may not have had an opportunity to immediately play with larger acts and get that attention can come in, show people their chops, and kick ass. And then on their resume, they say, yeah, we open for Death Angel, or we open for MOD, or, really cool artists like Napalm Death, things like that. So it's pretty awesome.
Oh, I mean, I thought honestly, out of all of the things that you were involved with, that this would, I don't understand why it isn't going ahead.
As far as like this year?
Yeah, I just saw a photograph yesterday of in England, and it's kind of like shot from the back of a huge festival, and somebody made, these kind of plywood risers with little metal pipe railings around them, and I think they were 5 feet square, and those little structures, we each had its own little mini refrigerator.
Right.
They were, and I thought, oh, because so this is a camping festival, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the deal?
So the reason that we decided not to go this year, we were going to go, full force. Obviously, COVID made it difficult, but we were still planning on going forward. However, our two headliners, we had Exodus this year and we had Guar this year, and as we were starting to like book our final headliner, things kind of got out of control with the pandemic, and we weren't really able to secure anybody. And then a couple months after that, the headliners decided that they were gonna drop. So we decided that it was better for us as a growing festival. Like so far this year, we have had our best sales out of all 6 years. So instead of trying to kind of half-ass the event and give people like a mid-rate experience, we instead want to transfer all of our efforts into 2021 and really go forward, making it the biggest and best year that we can, using our current momentum and continuing it into next year.
Okay. Wow. And so when you say, Napalm Death, I'm like, oh, holy crap. I know that these are bands. So this is, you've really built this thing over the last 6 years, because it was, how many people were at the first one?
At the first one, the first year it had got a lot of attention on its own, simply because it was kind of like the first extreme festival that's basically happened in a really long time. Because I know there was like, the owner always talks about like it's the Michigan Extreme Festival or some festival that was happening in the Midwest like a while ago, like really long while, where I wasn't even aware of. And he always talks about that being like a really big event and in the metal industry, underground industry. But then since then, there really hasn't been anything that's underground. So the first year, it kind of gained a lot of like press from like Metal Sucks and Metal Injection and things like that. So I think that year has been the biggest attended. I think there was about 1,000 people, or no, there was like about 1,500 people, and it was just a first year event. Basically, didn't put really much into doing much for it other than, hey, this is our show, let's go hit the pavement. And then I think that year two, I wasn't working on it year two until midway through, and so I didn't have any say in the booking or anything like that. And I think that year, comparing it to the first one, when I think the reality of what a live event really entails kind of hit the producer, he kind of scaled back a bit. So I think that also made people a little made people feel like, last year was bigger, what's going on? So
Yeah.
I think a little bit less people attended. However, it has been progressively building up since then. And I am very proud to say, like 90% of it is word of mouth.
Right.
Like when I say this is basically like DIY, a step above DIY, it's not just me saying this is a step above DIY. Like we have a production company come in and deal with the stages, but other than that, it's me and this other person and maybe like a person here or there kind of like helping us with consulting.
Okay. So
So
are you, congratulations on that.
thank you.
You've like taken that opportunity and grabbed it by the throat, which is awesome. So how are you, do you have any plans for what to do, just as we're doing with this MmX conference, right? Instead of like trying to get everybody to come and create this community experience indicator, we're doing things like this and incrementally reaching out to different groups of people and keeping this thing going. Do you have any plans for some online stuff or Zoom? Is it just completely alien to that audience, or?
So I feel like our audience is a lot of old, no offense, sorry, but right now we have like a lot of older people who kind of get on the internet kind of, not a lot really, like we have this core group that a fan started. It's called Full Terror Assault Friends, and that is pretty active and stuff, and we post there a lot. But we were maybe thinking of the weekend of kind of having like just like some sort of live stream, maybe reaching out to some of the independent bands that we had on the bill and maybe saying, hey, do you guys want to like come on for a little bit, maybe like introduce a video of yours or something like that. And kind of just to commemorate the weekend that was like lost, you know. But other than that, right now, no, because I don't think that we have enough. Um, I don't think we have enough time. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but like I don't think we have enough like time between the two of us to get together and kind of concoct something that's a bit bigger. But maybe like in a couple weeks when we kind of figure out a little bit better of what our plan is going to be more concretely, we will start doing more stuff digitally.
I just saw a couple of things. Garth Brooks, who shouldn't be your yardstick, but
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Garth Brooks.
Oh, Garth Brooks. Hey, Garth Brooks is cool.
Oh, okay. And Metallica. So Garth Brooks made $13.5 million in one day, playing everywhere via live stream.
Live stream, yep.
Metallica are playing.
Their shows every Monday.
No. They're doing the 29th of August. They're doing like 200 drive-in theaters.
Oh, really?
They specially filmed a secret concert in there wherever they are.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's $150 for a carload to go to a drive-in. And it's, I swear, it's, if you pull up Metallica August 29th, they're playing like 200 places. So,
wow.
But the other thing that's interesting to me is, I don't know if there are bands in other countries that you want to work with, but you could get Guar to do a 30-minute Zoom chat, you know,
yeah,
Napalm Death live from England, because they're just sitting there. No, the pubs are closed, you know.
yeah.
And I've really found that if you try and recreate a concert experience,
right.
But I'm doing free touring classes Monday night and Saturday morning. And there's people from Australia, New Zealand, El Salvador,
Wow.
Brazil, Mexico, Canada, US. And it's the conversations afterwards that are different than any experience we would normally have. So there is an opportunity to do stuff. I'm just trying to make sure you keep building the brand. Plus,
yeah, of course. That's something that's important for us.
Plus, maybe you could do a T-shirt. You know, 2020. We're doing this thing. Stay the fuck inside. How great to have people who are not spending all that money, right? Hey,
right.
Congratulations, we saved you so much money this year. Buy a fucking shirt, you know.
Yeah, and that's something that we're definitely going to do. We are working with our graphic designer right now and coming up with maybe a couple merch items or, you know, something small just so that people, because a lot of people were asking if there was going to be any merch or anything like that, because they still are trying to support our event, even though they're not going to be able to do that. Something that I was very like kind of excited about and very like, I don't know, humbled by is the fact that so we have our festival in a campground, and a lot of people were like, hey, like, can we still go camping that weekend? You know, like they still want to go and support the campground, which is really cool. Because the camp owner is a great person. He's always at the event. He's always kind of like hanging around. I mean, doing his job, but also like interacting with everybody. So everyone loves Tim down there. So it's pretty cool that they're like, hey, well, the festival is not going to happen. Let's go and support the campground at least, you know. And they still want to go and hang out with their FTA family, even if it's not the music, which is, I don't know. It's when like so many people were also like, well, we don't care if there's music or not. We don't care who plays or not. Can we still have the event? Can we still have the event? You know, it was kind of really cool. So yeah, like I do agree with you that it's not necessarily just about the music. It's about the entire experience of interacting. So having live chats and things like that is also a very important part. Although it might be an underrated part, it's still probably a very important part at the top of the heart of the event.
But that's great. There are some really positive things. It's like it takes something like that for these stories to surface and for you to be humbled and be like, oh my goodness, this means that these fans care. and
Yeah.
and the next time this happens, which I would assume will be next year, um, you know,
Sure, let's go with that.
but people uh, will feel luckier, won't take it
Mhm.
for granted. You know, so there are good things. So if we can go
Sure.
back, I don't know how many years. When did you start doing any of this, and how old were you, and what was it?
So like entirely, I started booking shows at like in my backyard or at like venues when I was in high school. So it's maybe, how old am I now? So it's like 10 years. So I'm 26 now. So when I was 16, I didn't book that many shows, but I booked a couple shows here and there. And when I found out about this DIY spot on the south side, won't name names because it's still alive now, and I don't want cops to get involved or come do any raids. Um, I kind of booked a little bit there, and then I realized that I could work at a venue, and I sent my resume to Reggie's, and then that's how it went. Yeah.
So what did you start doing at Reggie's? How did that work?
Um, I started being an intern there. I started putting posters up around town. I started putting posters up in the venue, being the venue bitch, basically. Everyone was nice. Like my boss, the intern manager was super great. So it wasn't like I felt kind of shitty. But then within like a month or two, they needed door people, and then they asked me if I wanted to do it because I did a good job putting tape on paper and sticking it to a wall. They're like, you can count money and stamp people's hands. So I did, and then from there, I kind of wanted to do production there, which I never really got around to on my own. But I shadowed production, and I did lighting a little bit and learned, tips and tricks here and there. And then started doing merch there for bands when they needed it. And I don't know, I met someone there who knew someone at Act, and then I started working festivals and so forth and so forth.
So, and when you work in festivals, is that the merchandise side of things?
Now it is. That's mainly what I do now. But before, when I started doing that, I did box office, and then a little production assistance. And then so like it didn't. I like when I was doing the festivals, I was also doing like other stagehand work at other venues. Oh, I interned at Empty Bottle as well.
Right.
And I got the internship because I met someone who was also interning there. I trained them at Reggie's to work doors. So it was kind of like I just met people and then I kind of connected. And then from working at Empty Bottle, I started working at Talia Hall and so forth and so forth. And so, yeah, like I do like stagehand work at Talia sometimes, but mainly I do merch there as well.
It's such a beautiful venue. Such a beautiful venue.
It's gorgeous, and it like I mean it looks like it's gonna like fall apart if you're in the inside. Like if you look up, it looks so old, but it's gorgeous. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite pig face. We played there at the end of November, 20.
Mhm.
one of my favorite shows. So it's just so open. You
Yep.
know, similar capacity to the Metro, but the stage at the balcony at the Metro feels like, yeah.
No, it's really cool. It's really cool. But yeah, like, I mean, honestly, I know, it was you or someone at SA. It was like a lot of the time it's just being there, and that's kind of what happened. Like I was there and I kind of did a decent job, and I asked questions. I did things. I kind of was like always eavesdropping in on conversations and kind of being like, hey, this is kind of what I want to do. Can like you point me in the right direction and stuff. And honestly, if it weren't for going to work or doing the internship at Reggie's, I would have never known that you could study music business, because the person was like, yeah, like they kind of just randomly mentioned it. I was like, oh, you can kind of like learn about this in school. So it kind of like led to all of that stuff. And then I don't know, like I just little by little. Oh, and not to mention, I've also worked for Riot, like intern for Riot Fest because of your connection to Christina. And then through that connection, I was just like, oh, I didn't know that they worked with Relo Fest. And I was like, well, I kind of would love to do that because it's not only connecting me to my culture, but connecting me to what I want to do. And then I started doing street team management for them. And then this year I was supposed to like be on their production team, which I was a little bit, and I was gonna manage vending and stuff like that, and among other stuff. But then everything kind of fell apart.
Wow. Well, I love this story, Azalee. I mean, and when you said you managed to put tape on pieces of paper, but there are people who can't do that, or are like, hold on a minute, I'm a person of value, and they've got me. F these people. They've got me sticking posters, and they kind of do a shitty job as some kind of a protest because really they should be producing Pink Floyd or
Right. And to me, that kind of like, I feel like that a little bit of the time, but sometimes it's just kind of like, well, if I were doing this, if this were my company and I needed to put like tape on paper and put it up, it's like, what does it matter? Like, we're all part of a team in some way. And I don't know, it was just not hard. And it was my first, like, let's say, quote unquote, real job in the industry. Like, that led me, I was able to book some shows at Reggie's. I was able to, like, meet some really good, like, people at Reggie's. Through people at Reggie's, I was able to, like, tour, and do other work and do some production work and do this and that. So it's just like, I don't know, you just have to, it doesn't matter what task you're given, you just have to show your value and just do it. I don't know. It needs to get done. Just do it. I don't know.
I like, because I know we've got some students in the event. So I like what you said, like you eavesdropped on all these conversations and you ask questions. And I would say, asterisk, you don't, is there more tape? There's no tape. Just find the tape, ask good questions that illustrate that hey, I noticed this and this, ask good questions. So,
Right.
and yeah, it's hearing you list all the things you've worked on. That's exactly the build up to
Right.
So you mentioned you wanted to study lighting design.
Yeah.
It seems to me like you have all of these skills. You'd be great on the road. Have you been out and tour managed or done merch?
So I've done so a while back, like I think it was the end of whenever I left SAE. Like, I graduated February, and then while I was in school, I was helping like some old friends of mine plan a tour, like a East Coast tour. It was like a 2-week run, and I helped book a couple of the shows on that, and then kind of like was one band's tour manager, basically, and I kind of ran a little bit of their merch. It was, I mean, they were like a local band, but I booked pretty decent shows. Like, I got them to play at the Brooklyn Bazaar and stuff like that, at a festival and things like that, which the place isn't even open anymore. But so, like, I mean, I got them pretty decent shows. It was like, I don't know, it was 2 weeks or something like that. So that was kind of my first experience on the road, went on like a 16 passenger van. I hated the people and so it kind of sucked, but other than that, it was like a good experience. Like I didn't like they were all being assholes and like kind of didn't want me to go, and I'm like, fuck it, I did so much work, I'm gonna do this because I'm gonna do it. And it's like it was a good experience as far as like understanding what I needed to do on the road and stuff. I haven't tour managed after that, but I went out and did merch for Incantation a couple months ago, no, a couple years ago, and then I was on a week run with this band called Deaf Heaven last year. I was supposed to go on tour with you, Martin, but stuff happened. Um, but I've mainly been flying in and out to festivals and doing like high volume merchandising. Um, I've done festivals in Atlanta, festivals in California. I do a lot of monster jams, which is kind of fun. Um,
Do what?
Monster jams, like the monster truck rallies.
Okay.
Yeah, which is really fun. So although I really want to start going back on the road to do merch and I would like to do tour managing because I plan my friends travel and like I enjoy doing stuff like that. Like I'm really good at like finding hotels and like organizing stuff. I could be better at it, but I'm pretty good at it. So I would love to tour manage. I think I probably would be a better like a road manager than tour manager though, because I kind of don't like dealing with people's attitudes. So road managing would maybe like, like doing logistics for like the tour buses and all that stuff. But we'll see what happens when it happens.
So you said the tour you went on in the 16 passenger van, um, the people, surprise, surprise, people in the bands were assholes. Were they just assholes or were they assholes to you? Were you the only female on the tour? Can you talk about that shit?
Yeah, so it was like mainly them personally, like it ended like our friendships ended pretty poorly, so that's kind of what it was. Um I feel like they kind of respected me as far as the work, I guess, in a way. But if I were a dude, I would have gotten completely different treatment for sure. It was never like weird, like there wasn't ever any like weird sexual anything like that. It was just them being asshole humans, and I was just not one of their people, I guess.
Okay.
So that's basically what it was. But I, I mean, with everybody else, like that I worked with, for the most part, people have been pretty cool. A lot of people I feel like I get more shit for my size than for my gender. From crew, but like the people that I have the most issue with is usually like fans that come up to me. Like I've gotten, what person in the band are you dating? And I'm like, all these dudes are like in their 50s, and I'm like, what the hell? So it's just like, I'm not dating anybody. None of them are my father, like get out of here. Um,
Good.
but I started when people ask me that, when dudes ask me that, I'm just like, yeah, all of them are my partner. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
So uh, I I'm just remembering. Um, when did you graduate? Was it like 4 years ago?
um, I think it was like 2017, 20. Yeah, I think it was 2017.
So
Yeah.
um, I remember uh, some people in your class, uh, Michael Scott, Rashid Hadi, Levy, um, like big guys,
Yeah.
physical guys in the
Yeah.
rap community. And I think, and the final assignment was anybody could do anything. You could do what.
Yeah.
And Michael did these words represented on a thing, and you decided to rap to them, which is just
Oh,
fantastic.
yeah. I'm sorry, can you repeat that last part?
Did you forget?
I did until just now. I think it was like I like rapped to like Run DMC or something like that. Yeah, I don't remember what I said, but I vaguely remember rapping to them. Yeah.
So I mean, I when you list off all of the things you've done, uh, I think you'd be fantastic as a tour manager. So
Thank you.
it's interesting to me that you were talking earlier that you want to get into lighting and study lights.
Yeah. I just honestly, I just like color. And when I was in the lighting booth, I mean, I really like didn't do much. I was kind of pressing buttons at that time, but also at Empty Bottle, they have like an older system where you have to manually mix the colors, which I thought was pretty cool. I really just like color, and it's, let me be honest, unless I really like the band, I hate being at concerts. Um, so it was a really cool way to watch the show and have it go by really quickly while also being part of the show.
Okay.
And to me that's just really cool. Like I'm really visual. Like I like velvet a lot. I like, like texture and things like that. And I feel that like a lot of musicians then like I feel like lighting and stage design is basically that. And I think it's a very underrated dimension um in music, and I think it should be used. And it's like all of my life I've kind of been like, I'm not a musician, but I want to be part of the show. So that's kind of one way that could also be part of the show. And like also, helping the musicians, but also at the same time helping the audience have a better experience. Um, yeah, and quite frankly, I like pretty colors.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Um, but I wonder, in the present climate, um, with with all of your skill sets uh, based around a kind of a live performance, like uh,
Yeah.
street teaming, marketing, promotion, merchandise, production, tour management, booking. Um, ha- has any of this caused you to rethink adding another live music based skill set to your basket of skills? I mean,
A bit. I mean, somewhat. I also do have like social media experience, which is something that I'm kind of trying to work into my resume a lot right now, and I'm trying to look for jobs like that. But I mean, it really does have me rethinking. Another reason that I did want to learn lighting is because a lot of tours, especially like in metal, they like people that have dual function. So that would have been some like would have given me an edge as like, well, I can do lighting and I can also be your tour manager and stuff like that. But right now, I have decided that to take an English teaching an English teaching certification course, because that's something that I could not only like figure out online, but I could also teach online. So I'm in, trying to get other skills. Um, I don't know. I'm kind of panicked as far as like the live industry. Kind of really disappointed about how everything's happening and kind of disassociating from it all right now a little bit. Um, in the next couple of months, I'll figure out kind of a better, I don't know, better trajectory to what I should do. Um, I don't know. I really don't know the answer, and I've told I'm okay with that right now. Like I don't have to decide what my next step is to maybe till maybe like October, so I have a little bit of time to play with.
but
Um,
I think social media is a great idea, but it's been kind of encouraging to me to see, like, there's a band called Local H from Chicago,
yeah,
played Reggie's. Um, they just did 3 shows at a drive-in theater out.
right. And I was offered some work to do some events like that, but I decided to say no because I am still kind of worried about the repercussion, the health repercussions. And I'm currently like staying with a person who is older, and I don't want to put them at risk.
Right.
Um, So, I mean, I really wanted to do that, but I also know how difficult it is to deal with drunk people. And much, particularly now that there is a pandemic, I'd just rather not put myself in that situation for a couple bucks,
Yeah, I get that, but it's
Yeah.
encouraging, and I joked, I don't know when, it might have been last week, it might have been 3 months ago. People are like, oh, this is happening, and it's like, yeah, that's been my life. Punk rock was a revolution. It's like all the stuff's gone. It's vinyl. There's no more vinyl. It's digital with CDs.
Hmm.
Now it's downloading. Now it's streaming. Cassettes are back. To me, all this it's like it's a Tuesday. It's just.
Right.
You know,
I don't know if you've also seen, I can't remember I think it's the Flaming Lips. Even before the pandemic, they have had shows where people were in bubbles.
right.
So it's kind of like there's a way to do this. I'm sure there is a way, but because of how kind of weird things are, it really takes one asshole to kind of ruin the party for everybody else. So
Well, what
yeah,
you
but it is encouraging though. It is really encouraging, and I'm glad because I mean, a lot of people were saying how like the drive-in stuff wasn't sustainable, and I mean, it is sustainable for to some people, but it's not sustainable for the entire music scene for sure. But it is still encouraging that it's moving forward in a way.
right. So I mean, it's good to see. I say that one of the reasons I like to teach music business, music industry stuff. I don't think I'm teaching how to do this. I'm trying to teach a creative problem-solving mindset because that's what you do on the road. Oh my goodness, the bass player's got diarrhea. The club's closed. The club owner's in jail. There's no sound system. It's just whatever it is, and I think that's ultimately healthy. So, yeah, and you said it only takes one asshole. I saw the chain smokers just did a show and everybody got out of their cars and went down the front and it was just,
Yeah.
thanks a lot. So, as I said, we do have some students on the call. What advice would you give to students who are still students looking for outside of the pandemic, looking
Okay.
looking to build their career and make their next moves?
Um, Honestly, I would say don't panic. Um, for one, um, I would try just to this a way that I kind of started getting into all of this was just kind of going to shows um, and kind of meeting people. I know a lot of people that became interns after me and stuff knew people at Reggie's, but for me, I didn't know anybody. So I just sent in my email, my, like a message cold turkey, and it worked. So basically, the worst that can happen is someone says no. Just do it. Don't do it while you're drunk. I mean, like send a professional email or something, but just the worst that can happen is no. Also, don't feel like you have to deal with assholes. There are other people out there that are not assholes. Um, like your health, your health, your safety, your mental health is very important. It's really underrated. Like you can feel really like tired and burned out after a bit. So like just really take care of yourself. Because I mean, this is like a bad timing and a bad example of it, but the music business and industry and stuff will always be there. Just just take care of yourself, like don't take shit, take care of yourself, know your worth. Because a lot of people out there may like try to tell you that you're not worth stuff, and know when you should start getting paid for your work too. Because after a while, like yeah, you've interned and you've done this and you've done that. Like that's something that I still struggle with, like knowing, like I still struggle with knowing what I know, like that, knowing that I know what I know, and that like it's valuable information, and there's like people out there that don't know what I know. So just make sure that you put value on that because it is valuable. um
Right.
yeah.
I think that's good for you as a person, you know, to realize here are all these things. Here are all of these mistakes that you're not going to make again, right? And, you know, it's painful to sit and watch people make all of these mistakes all the time, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything, one of the things I talk about, uh, I, I, um, I chatted with Ruth Daniels. She's from Manchester, England. I met her in South America at a conference, and she has something called In Place of War, where they go into the favelas of Brazil or communities in trouble, Palestine, and they take hip hop recording equipment and they facilitate and help in Africa, facilitate and help music to give people a voice, to replace guns with hip hop.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
it was pretty cool talking to her, but it made my conversation with her was, hey, you know, before you enlist me to go off to another country, I'm sitting on the south side of Chicago, you know. Are there any organizations or anybody doing anything that you want to shine a light on?
So currently, my friends in Smash Potato, they a couple weeks ago, they were selling their merch and giving money to just organizations in the community. And there's this organization called Eats. It's not necessarily music related, but it's an organization that basically tries to uh, get money or organize funds to help people underprivileged people, to help them gain wealth that will then contribute to generational wealth, so that can help more people be out of poverty for like an actual amount of time, and grow in their communities and stuff. So that's an organization that I kind of really gravitated towards. And I also just kind of like their acronym. It's EATS. I just think it's a very important thing to connect with anybody that's doing that. For me, something that just kind of recently personally happened to me that I thought was awesome and made me kind of proud to work with these people was um, Ruido Fest, and it's still happening right now. So they're selling tickets for the festival, and um, from every sale, there's going to be $5 going to Voto Latino, which is like a Latin, like an organization that tries to help and educate Latin voters our country, which is really obviously important. And one of the reasons that I started working with that festival was to kind of help bring the Latin community to the front to the front of people's minds, and kind of just push that culture, or not necessarily push, but kind of like empower the people in that culture, and through music, because I think that's like in Latin culture, music is super important, and there's a lot of people who, not just in Latin culture, but in general, use music as a form of protest, as a form of expression, and as a form to as a platform to speak out about their beliefs, and even in a therapeutic manner. So for me, those two organizations, particularly EATS and then Voto Latino, seem to be something that I'm currently passionate towards.
Okay. Can any students on the line find links um, and throw some links in there? And what was the festival that you mentioned?
So it's Ruido Fest,
How do you spell?
RUIDO, and then Fest. So it translates to Noise Fest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Rido Fest. And
Mhm.
so they're selling tickets to Rido Fest, and some of that money goes to Voto Latina.
Yes, which is really awesome because the festival is mainly run by a person that is not necessarily a person. He's a white man. So to me, a lot of the time it's difficult for people that aren't particularly affected with certain things to care. And and he is making he is profiting off Latin culture. So it's really important for him to do something that also gives back to the community and extends, like, isn't just profiting or using a community, but also is giving back to that community. And that's something that I really like about this event, because it really to me, and it really feels like that's what this person's intentions are, and they're not just doing it, like they're not just saying it, they're putting their money where their mouth is. And it's really particularly important right now that he's doing it, or it means a lot that he's doing it now, especially when there is this crisis going on, because any money that is put, that is, excuse me, that is any sales that are happening right now could really help us with our budgeting and could really go towards other things that are very much needed in the business. So the fact that he's willing to part with any sort of money for a good cause it speaks even more to him.
Did you say that Smash Potato are selling merch to benefit?
They were, so like 100% of the profits were doing that a couple weeks ago, and at the moment we actually collaborated on a cute little like quarantine packet that is going to go out to him this week, where it's just like kind of like some coloring pages and like some crossword puzzle, just some activities that you print at home activities, and it costs $1. And you can get it on their Bandcamp. It costs $1 or whatever you want to donate, and then that money will go to an organization to help Black, Indigenous people of color.
Well, so please, don't forget that I'm here in Bridgeport with a printing press. We've done some bags for Dark Matter Coffee. Stay the fucking side. Get the fuck in the shower with some goat's milk, coffee flavored goat's milk soap, and we're bouncing stuff around. And I'm happy to help with any merch stuff you've got going on.
Thank you.
Do you print?
I know how to. I just don't have the equipment.
Okay.
I know how to do it very basically. Yeah.
Well, it's very.
I've printed some of the, when Record Breakers used to be at Reggie's on the second floor. I helped print some of their merch.
Okay. So I mean, we're reorganizing down here, making more space, so to create the ability to have people come in, mask up, and go print or work in the studio.
Nice.
So let's get to some. I don't know if there's going to be any questions, but let's see if there's any questions. It's been really good to talk to you, Azalee.
Same, Martin. It's been a while.
Yeah. There's Mason Hoyt. I don't know if you can see the questions. How did you initially get involved in planning festivals?
I pretty much just asked. I really just went. I literally stalked the festival's page a little bit. So I was posting about it a lot on there, and then I went and I was like, hey, can I help you guys with some marketing? I'm pretty good at posting social media stuff. And then no response. Hey, follow up. Hey, hi, how are you doing? Third, fourth message, they finally responded, like, sure. And then I don't think that they expected me to actually put as much effort as I have. And now I don't know. I surprise myself as to how much I've done just by asking someone a simple, hey, can I work on this? I don't know. It seems a bit shocking to me still to this day. So honestly, just go ask. The same thing kind of happened with Ruido Fest. I was just like, hey, I'm good at this, but do you need help with anything? And he's like, sure, yeah, I'll figure out what place in the event I can have for you this year.
Wow, I think it seems like you make it easy. Sometimes people can make it almost a task for organizers to find a place to put them. And it seems like you do a really good job of like, hey, I like doing this. However, whatever, I'm here to help. And
right.
I think it's easy for a student especially to look and go, well, I want to work on Lollapalooza. And I don't want this extreme terror assault thing. It seems embryonic and disorganized. It's like, yeah, Lollapalooza doesn't need your help. There's 500 people on there, intern, whatever, and it's a machine. Extreme terror assault does, and so your position within it has grown.
Mm-hmm.
The festival has grown, and here you are within inches of having grown.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's the most exciting thing where it's just like, and I also made it clear, like every year that something happens. Like, for example, this year, with Rilo Fest, I was going to, what did he kind of just said, well, this is kind of what I need you for. And I'm like, all right, that's great. But this is kind of also the stuff, I'm working with this other event and this is kind of the stuff that I would like to learn about. I don't really know, I don't have much experience with what you're asking me to do, but I'm willing to learn and figure it out and, and do this. And I don't lie or I don't I mean maybe it's because I already have some sort of like working relationship with this person that I feel comfortable letting them know where I feel my limitations are, but I just make it clear, hey, this is something that I've never done. This is what I would like to do. This is what I would like to learn. So please can you like kind of, give me guidance in these areas. And I've been fortunate enough that at least with Riddle Fest, he is so great about like, yo, do this task. It's super easy. Even if it's not that easy, he'll just be like, it's super easy. Just do this. And he makes it feel easy for me and kind of like doesn't put me down when I kind of like don't do it correctly. He's just like, well, I was kind of thinking more about this. Can you change this? Can you change that? And then after a while, I just kind of like learn to work to the rhythm and how they like it and getting the experience there. And with Full Terror Assault, I mean, he was slightly winging it when he started anyway. So I kind of feel like in some aspects I had more experience than him. So it felt more like of a he knows this, he has control over this, and I have control over this and I know this. So it felt more of a balanced relationship and kind of we like have learned from each other. And I mean, I have been able to personally book so many artists that I never thought I would ever be able to book or ever see live simply because I'm like, hey, can I do this? I know that I don't have experience with booking that much or with high volume booking and with high budget booking, but can I do it? He's like, sure. Just send me the contract beforehand so I can look or the offer beforehand so I can look it over and go for it. So it's I don't know. I mean, just ask questions. Just ask. I don't know. I mean, I know that sounds like a cop out, but just ask.
And just to put this in perspective, I tell people all the time, I tell artists, 7 years to be an overnight sensation. Like, how long have you been, how long is this journey for you?
Like I mean, like I said, I started doing DIY shows when I was 10, and I remember like when I first started working at Reggie's, I was telling the person that I worked there casually, like my boss there, I was like, yeah, man, there's this festival called 70,000 Tons of Metal. I really want to like go on it. I know that you can like do stagehand work as a volunteer and stuff. Like I just have no idea how to do it. And then a couple years later, I'm working. I'm like volunteering my time as a stage or as a stage builder, stagehand person and getting to, you know, do the things that I'm saying just because I kept kind of bringing it up to people and being like, oh man, yeah, this is something I want to do. Like, and then they're like, yeah, I know someone on there, or I do it. Let me just connect you with whomever, blah, blah, blah. So it's just kind of like putting it out there. Like, I keep saying that I want to book ABBA and that I'm going to convince my boss at Full Terror Assault to book ABBA. And like people look at me like I'm ridiculous. It's like, bro, I was able to like book this other band called Violence that just had gotten back together, who I had no idea like who their contact was. Like no one did really. And I was able to book them to have come, to come to the fest. Like you think I'm kidding? I want to book ABBA and it's gonna happen. Like I don't know when and I don't know how, but you're gonna be coming to ABBA that I'm producing. So I don't know what to tell you. Like I don't know.
Well, I know there's a couple of questions in the Q&A, but you were at the ABBA Museum, and I saw you picturing that helicopter.
Yep.
So you're a big ABBA fan.
Yes, I grew up listening to ABBA. My mom had like the greatest hits. She and I would just listen to it all the time. And I don't know, their music is so great, and I really think that it a lot of it can be like translated into some really cool dark disco or something like that. And I just think it would sound so awesome. So I really like listen to them a lot. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I do want to pick you up on the greatest hits. I would say every song they wrote was a fucking hit.
No, it really is, and it's kind of like my favorite ABBA album is ABBA's Greatest Hits number like Volume 2. but literally, like, if you hear any ABBA song, like, you already know it, and you'd be surprised how much ABBA you know when you when you listen to them. You're like, oh wow, I didn't even know this was them. Or it's just so much. And not even that, but they sing in Spanish. Like, that to me is so awesome. They're Swedish, they sing in English, they sing in Spanish, and like they have to deal with interperson, like, you know, like being together. I don't know, it's like a really interesting dynamic, and like it's really intertwined in my family's culture and stuff like that. So I just my godmother's favorite band and stuff, like, so I picture booking ABBA, flying my godmother out to the ABBA show, and you know, I don't know, that's kind of my like my daydream a lot of the time.
And they'll be assholes. This white wine is not chilled. Get Azalee in here. The show is canceled.
Oh, I will do anything. Well, not anything, but I will do anything for ABBA, and I will make sure that wine is chilled just fine. They've been through a lot, okay? They've been through a lot.
Yeah, I think that for me, now you see every country and every region in England, Yorkshire, South, Scotland, they have their own delegations that go to South by Southwest. They go to festivals around the world, and they're shopping, they're promoting what they call export ready bands. It's this new term, which on the one hand, as a punk, is kind of like shockingly commercialized.
Right.
The band as a product, but also it's kind of interesting. But ABBA started this. They were so popular in Russia. Russia paid Sweden in oil and tractors for
I
ABBA.
did not know that.
They affected the gross national product of Sweden was affected by songs coming out of somebody's head. And South Korea knows this, right? Their music industry is a factory now. You know, K-pop is just insanely huge, and most countries in the world now are trying to support their music industry because it affects the gross.
I mean, yeah, I mean, here, like, just in Chicago on its own, like, I don't know, arts are very underrated in general, and I think they're very underrated in the United States. And I feel like maybe this pandemic will kind of showcase that. I kind of feel like it's a good thing that people don't get to go to shows and don't get to do certain things. Like, it's obviously a double-edged sword, but it's kind of like, yo, you guys took this for granted. You guys wanted to get on guest lists. You guys wanted to do this. You guys wanted to do that. But it's just like, not only is this people's lives, but like, look at how much you miss this. Look at how much you really need to support it so that it can actually keep happening. And like, not just from like, you know, the general population, but the government really, 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 really needs to support it. Like in Finland, like I have a friend who lives over there. Their government, if you're an artist, like you can get subsidies. You can to like not work for like a period amount of time and just focus on your art, you know. And it's wild. It's like art is really, really important. It's like, it's probably, to me, it's like right up there with mental health, like with like hair, because it's like, I don't know, to me that's kind of like those things that kind of go hand in hand, you know, like it. And it's pretty, and it's just like, it's really, both of those things are very like underfunded and underrated.
Well, I think I've spoken a bunch up in Canada, and I remember speaking at this one place, and this whole wall was like brochures at a doctor's office, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all like, here's the grant to make a demo, here's the touring grant, here's the video grant if you want to make it's like the Canadian government, not so much the British government, kind of accidentally through unemployment financed waves of talented musicians. But Norway, Sweden, all of those countries are helping. Australia has a delegation that travels the world helping their artists. And we're falling behind. We're falling behind. Couple more questions.
Okay.
As a young woman in the music business, are there any tactics you use to be taken seriously?
Dirty looks. No. Sometimes. But mainly I just kind of try to be clear, and it's something that I really like struggle with sometimes, because it's like I can come off very abrupt and aggressive in ways. when I'm trying to be assertive. Um, but at this point, I haven't found any other way that feels to me. And it doesn't happen very often, but it's like I don't know, just being assertive and like not really like taking no for an answer, or not really taking whatever you don't want to happen, kind of saying stuff. Even like, I mean, I kind of say things passive aggressively, which is probably not correct, but like that's kind of what I do. Um, and it really is just a defense mechanism from a lot of like shitty people. Um, I don't know. A lot of the time, I just kind of like, instead of having to combat this stuff, I try to do my work like 10 times better, or, like try to go to the extra mile, because then like my work can just speak for itself. So it's like, if I don't want to have like speak to anybody that I don't like or care for or have an issue with, it's like, just my work is fine. You don't need to speak to me any further.
Um, Sammy says, what are some online marketing strategies you've pivoted towards more since the pandemic?
So for the festival, I feel like we haven't particularly pivoted in too too much, because we were really just doing online, like online, using our online platforms to get the word out there. I guess we were using a little bit of like flyering, but not so much anymore. So it's kind of like, the way that we run, at least Full Terror Assault, is very like, this is from us, the people, for the people. And like, we kind of let them, we ask open-ended questions. We ask like, what do you guys like, what do you guys want to hear, what do you guys think we should do? Like when we were like postponing the event, we were like, we gave them a choice. We're like, do you guys want this to happen, or do you guys not want this to happen? We did a private survey, so no one felt some type of way, and we're like, you guys are going to decide, like, if this, we have a certain benchmark we have to meet, at people, but if it passes that benchmark, then we'll still go forward. So it's like, we kind of have, even if we're kind of leaning to one way or the other, we very much try to make our like fan base make the decisions. We try to include them in all the process, like in a lot of the processes, so that they don't feel very left out. I mean, that's kind of what we do generally, but right now I feel like it was a lot more important. It was of a lot more importance, because it kind of gave them more control over the situation in a time where there really isn't control over any situations.
I think you get so much mileage out of a 2020 shirt, honestly.
Oh, we're totally going to print something for 2020. I think that I think that what we're doing is probably just going to wait for the weekend of, maybe like promote it a little bit beforehand to remind people that 2020 is not happening, so no one gets confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just kind of, yeah.
And so we talked a little bit about sexism, but have you dealt with any racism out on the road or during production?
Um, Let me think. I don't. So not necessarily in production. I do sometimes work during the off season, sort of like the winter. I work coat check at a club, and I it's kind of, it's not necessarily doing merch, but it's kind of the same setup for the most part. Like, dealing with customers, and someone tried to tip me in pesos one time, and kind of, I felt that that was a little bit condescending, but then I was like, you know what, bro? I know how much these, like, it's not worth much. I'm like, oh, it's okay. Like, I know how much tacos this can buy me. Like, I'll take this. Like, give me give me that stuff. So like, I kept the money. Um, but it's just kind of like, I don't feel like I've ever blatantly have dealt with outwardly racist people. Something that I have noticed though, like, I sometimes work with a British dude, um, and he has an accent, and he's a pretty handsome, just handsome person, and so many people treat him differently than they would treat a brown immigrant. Like, everyone's like swooning over him. How long have you been in this country? Like, wow, that's great. Welcome, blah 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 blah. And I know that that would probably not be the response that like someone that has like a weird um like a weird, not weird, but like a different type of English like accent or whatever. So
It's weird. People think that the English accent is somehow uh, more educated.
and he doesn't have like, I know that like I'm not hopefully I'm not offending you or anybody else, but like I know that like, is it the Cockney accent where it's supposed to be like the like I guess like the more like just like the street accent? I don't really know like, but it's like he has a more like refined like, I don't know, kind of like way he speaks, and it's just kind of like I don't know. I feel like he fits into the stereotype of what they want a British person to be, and they like swoon over him. He's a great person. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say the perception that he get, like that that people have of someone just because of that.
Okay. Here's an interesting one from Abby Cottrell. You have so many roles in festivals and shows. Do you eventually want to become an expert, or do you like the plate spinning, the diversity of doing all these different things?
That's a hard question. I guess I would like to become an expert on some stuff, and but honestly, I'm really sporadic, so I kind of like being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I like just my days not being the same all the time. So that can be pretty fun. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like inevitably I'm just like because of the way things work, I'm gonna be an expert in something. I just don't know what it is right now. But it's gonna happen. So
I think there's that analogy of like, you start in the mailroom of the record label, you learn all the jobs before, and I mean, honestly, you you're going through all of these positions. Honestly, I think you'd be fantastic as a tour manager because you've done all the shit, you know. And
well, Martin, when's the next Pig Face tour?
it's a good question. That's what we just, we had 42 dates canceled this year, and it's like,
Yeah, that's a bummer.
oh,
Soon.
yeah. So the last question, a nice one from Michael Foreman. What would you say is the best experience you've had with a band or band members?
Oh, okay. I think that two things. So, violence, something that was kind of really funny, and I guess maybe that this plays into sexism a little bit. Like, that's been one of my favorite bands for a really long while. Got to book them, and they were not necessarily like, they no, they were I was the one that was doing everything. My name's kind of weird, so when I met the person I was corresponding with, one of the members, he's like, "Oh, I thought you were a man. I didn't realize you were a woman." And I just thought it was really funny, and but it kind of was like, "Oh, okay." Like it, it was, I don't know, like they're kind of one of my heroes, so it's kind of like it was cool, like it was surprising, and it was just kind of funny. Um, I don't know, it was an interesting interaction. Um, that was one of my favorite things. Another thing that I think one of my most favorite things that ever has happened. One of the first time I was shadowing production at Reggie's, I was trying to. There's this Polish metal band called Vader, and is it Vader? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Vader. Um, I was helping them dismantle their drum set, and I was kind of having a tough time getting undoing the legs on the floor tom, and the guy's like, "Oh, here, let me show you how to do this." He flips around and he like starts doing it, and he's like, that's it's a much easier way to do it that way. And I just thought, wow, this guy, like, it's his drum set. He like finished playing a set and is still taking the time to like be like, "Yo, like, let me just show you. It's not that bad." Like, instead of being a dick about it.
Yeah.
So I have to say that. And then the last thing, this band on my shirt, Grisix, there are some, 20 something dudes from Spain. And we brought them to the United States for the first time ever. And they were just so grateful. They were so happy. They were so nice. I've known about them since like 2014. And I just thought, they're pretty popular in Europe. Like they're just gonna be like kind of like douchey, like cool kids. So nice. Like, I don't know. It's just when you meet people like they're not necessarily my heroes, but when you meet people, you kind of like are like they're just gonna be dicks, and then they're not. That is just awesome.
Oh, there you go. You can lower expectations. There you go. Wow. Well, so thanks, Azalee. I'm gonna message you later today with a couple of things I want to talk to you about. Uh, and it's really I know things are slightly fucked across the spectrum, anything to do with live events, but it's great to see this web of things that you've done that are all connected together, that that are all leading somewhere. And I hope that any students have gotten something out of this. I see there's people from Canada and all kinds of people on the chat here. So thank you for taking the time to do this. And maybe when we do an in-person event down at the university, you could consider coming down and joining us and sharing a panel on festivals or something like that. It would be great.
Sure.
That would be really good. Thanks for introducing everybody to Smash Potato. What was that? What's that song called? Extra Toxic Masculinity Holocaust.
Yes.
The T-shirt. Well, thanks, Azalee. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Check out those links in the chat. Next week is co-author of this book, Randy Chertkow, Making Money with Music. The week after that is Ad 2. Loving this series, and thanks again for joining us. Thanks, Azalee.
Yeah, of course. Bye.